This feels like a silly question asking it, but here in America, it feels like interracial couple applies to, that's something people say when one of the people is white and the other is not. It seems when we say interracial couple, we tend to think of one person's white, one person's black. What we don't seem to account for is one person is black, one person is Asian. One person is Asian, one person is Latino. We don't tend to go down that road because ultimately then we're talking about someone, for example, if you're Puerto Rican, and so many of my videos constantly in the comment section, every day people are talking about this. That in Puerto Rico, and this is, I've never been to Puerto Rico, so I'm only going based on people who are in Puerto Rico, but they're saying that in Puerto Rico, it's not the same way as it is in the United States and the mainland, because in Puerto Rico, everyone is mixed. It's not even biracial, it's triracial for the most part. So there's not the focus on race because everyone is, in theory, equally mixed. Yes, you may be more of one thing, but it just doesn't matter. In the United States, there's been more of a focus on that. But I think it's ultimately when there's a white person with a person who is of a different race. That's when it becomes known as biracial. And it's interesting for me, as I try to unpack this, in my mind, going by this own theory, then that means my parents would have been an interracial couple because my dad, 100% European, Northwestern European, like his DNA test shows, what is it, like 3/4 British and a quarter German. But then my mom being half Mexican and half Italian, and her own mother ranking pretty high on the Native American side based on my test specifically. In theory, my parents are an interracial couple, but I don't think a lot of people would really think of it that way. But it is interesting. Okay, so you say you have one white person, and then let's say the other person was 100% of Mexican descent. Would that be an interracial couple? And I think the lines get blurred. Don't you love it when someone who has an English major, it's almost like I hold myself to a higher standard. I can't just make up a word, blurn. But ultimately it seems the lines are confused. To say interracial couple is almost confusing as saying biracial. It seems kind of a made up thing because if you get so technical, then so many Latino people are all automatically biracial. So if they end up with someone who is of any other race, or I don't know, I think biracial, the more you dice it up, the more confusing it gets, and I think it only confirms the concept that typically in America when people talk about an interracial couple, they're talking about one person being white specifically, and then probably the other person being black. Not always, but I think that's the general rule. Let's explore that more in the comments, which you will leave right here.